going to go ahead and give this message because I just want to tap into the energies, because I was getting this deep energetic message about some of my own premonitions, and I think the aqua moon is really supporting some of my visions and my psychic development at this time. So I'm going to say some things that might be sort of like shocking or interesting in that regard, or whatever, but it's not really meant to be just like provocative for provocative sake, but to really shed light. But we're going to talk about this parasitic energy, and this book describes parasitic the best way. It says, when the only answer to lack of self-efficiency is to cling to another one. Like, there is, so I think that in the karmic cycle, parasites kind of on the list of priorities really started to sort of meet their way down as we sort of moved into and transitioned into survival mode and being more conscious and connected with what was asked of us in sort of a present moment. And so parasitic behavior didn't really see its justice in recent times, given the climate. But oh man, is the parasite back in the limelight at this time. For some of us, we're not realizing that there was this energy where people had become so disempowered, so broken down, so unable to provide for themselves, so unable to connect to their internal spirit during that previous age of Pisces, that we actually have plenty of people walking around this earth right now who can't be self-sufficient. They can't do for themselves, and they get so fed up and so hurt by that inability, and there's so much jealousy and rage that can well in seeing that innate ability, that soul power in others, that they have tried to hide. And they'll just attach to someone else who might has a really strong soul urge, and you might remember people like this or organizations like this where they were so clearly hidden in plain sight, this inability to do for themselves, but somehow made it up this echelon by clinging to another. And that parasite is not going to make it through the age of the Aquarian initiation, where there's a certain level of ascension that says you got to stand up. Like, that's the bare minimum, and that we're speaking standing up energetically, which it really means just to embody your own energy at this time. And there's an inability to embody because there's an inability to generate anything, right? And I also feel like revenge. I think there's also this long list that, believe it or not, that this parasitic energy also has like a really long list of their motivation, because they can't generate source energy. Their motivation is like past hurts, so past people who said they couldn't, or not even people might end up in this on these parasites list as just peripheral, like anybody whose own success undermined their natural innate laziness or incapabilities. That's who became their pseudo source, you know what I mean? And so they're actually fueled by this sort of revenge energy, this dulled revenge energy, but it manifests in a very parasitic sort of external. So I just, from what I intuit, I guess we'll start here, and I'll just read it. It says, relationships are not a zero-sum game. Of course, using each other is part of the game, but it's quite different when use takes the shape of supporting rather than manipulating or exploiting. In the long run, a good relationship is win-win, where the more I give, the more I get, and the other way around. Still, it's not always like this, isn't it? Not just in bad relationship. In the short run, bad is bound to happen, even in the house of true love. We cling, we bite, we hunger for safety and freedom and support, and on the other side, we get mangled, bitten, demanded on. Well, it happened, and it will happen again. It is part of the game, but if it happens too often, it creates a toxic environment. It doesn't matter if we are the victim or the perpetrator, as poison is shared equally. One gets the pain, another one gets the advantage, but the toxic part, they both get. Fully, a parasite, a leech, kills itself as much as it kills the host. It sacrifices the journey to the destination, and then the destination to its own failures. So some of y'all, I really just wanted to say, like, you guys are maybe like wanting a relationship so bad, right? Or maybe you're wanting to be seen by people in a certain way, or maybe you want to be like a public figure in a certain way, and you're not realizing that the whole incentive of looking at something and having a desirable life or partner or career is about how good you'd feel every day to be walking that journey in that desirable career. And people with a generation of like a regenerative source internally know that when they get their dream careers, it will, the point of it is that you want every day to feel good when you go to work, versus like this sort of parasite that is hollowed out, and for them they sacrifice the journey just to get the destination, so they get the achievement, but it never feels good, or they don't really feel like they're happy. And it says then the destination, which is what you've received, it goes right to its own failures, right? So we're really going to start to see that. We're really going to see like it kind of sputter out, where you're going to hear narrative versus truth. And that's kind of what I spend a lot of time in, which is understanding narrative, which is how we process the truth, which is just as important, because the narrative you walk around with, like some people are getting away with like narratives that just are like not based in any truth, but because we're so focused on narrative without the understanding that narrative is an interpretation of the truth, like we're all getting the medicine, the truth just is, so the narrative is what we have to say. So how aligned is your narrative to the truth matters, right? So you're going to see that in like media outlets or just like public influencers, right? Like we're going to start seeing just like weird, because this is nothing like the truth. So a lot of that energy where you're going to see what someone might be creating or what narrative they're spinning about what the truth is, and then the truth, which is just going to be revealed here. So I think that's going to be quite interesting for some of this parasitic energy, because I think we're going to really see the discrepancies front and center. Like, so what was it, like, you know what I mean, where there's what companies might tell you is going on, and then there's just the truth of what's going on, right? Or like yeah, there's artists and up and coming people who, you know, tell you that they can use the jargon that it's this, that, and the third, but then the truth of what that actually looks like is nothing. Like if we were to follow them around with the camera, we wouldn't want or desire what they have or what it actually looks like. Like that's the thing. Like I can say like this is the best job in the world, but then if every day I'm like miserable and want to like jump a cliff, like, you see what I mean? Like the narrative only has value if it's adjacent to the truth, and I think that's what we're realizing. Is like it's great if someone pumps you up with a bunch of a narrative, but if it doesn't really do anything, then what good is it to us? And so I think there was this sort of envious gluttony that can be developed in that space. I'm seeing this just sort of, there is hunger sleeping just under the surface, like an animal lurking, right? Someone is, I feel like it was motivated by this space where like someone is so hungry for the thing that they cannot have, and what you can create by being so fixated on like a limitation. And it says this card is not just dark, it is unpleasant. This is the reality of some of these parasites. Like we're starting, like these narratives that are unfolding that are not adjacent to any truth, you're gonna know because they're just dark and unpleasant, sickly, disgusting. The difference in how we feel in front of a vampire as opposed in front of writhing bugs. It's not an existential darkness that we can paint of romance, drama, and subtle anguish. It is raw, primal, reeking of rotting stench. Oh yeah, I really feel that. It feels like there is darkness, and in the black landscape there's a hole leading to an even greater darkness, and that is calling. The urge is pressed down every time, played with, toyed with, treated like something that doesn't belong here. It is like rolling in the mud, bringing out the twisted, refreshing feeling of demeaning oneself. The key is that we don't want to recognize the depth of the envy and the anger. We casted it out of ourselves, and now it's truly a parasitic monster, impossible to accept as something that came out of ourselves. What if we bring light to the pitch dark well? What if the scary monster is just a scrawny, starved feeling? What if it's just a little thing, dark as tar indeed, but to be sorry of, not to be feared? This is a question because it's no longer gonna fly. Like we're not taking that you're just gonna keep like that's how we're looking. Like you have to hold these energy, these parasites accountable. It's like turning to the parasite and being like, this is sad because this is just an emotion that you have just neglected, that you just are so afraid to address, and you leave starving in a dark cellar, and it doesn't matter. And the reason it's roaring so loud and it's gotten so out of control, and these people have gotten so spun out, and we've gotten so far from the fact that whatever someone's narrative is, it's only valid as its relationship to the truth. And I think we got so caught up in what people could say and how they could say it, and some people were banking. Some people were smart enough to know that they could say something ambiguous, or they could develop a narrative, and people who are not connected to truth, not through maybe through their own will, maybe they just haven't like really gotten to that level of ascension within their own journey, or self-actualization in their own journey, they can know that there is going to be this ambiguity where people can think the truth is something else. You get me? Like something better than what it actually is. You know what I mean? Like some people who are developing a narrative that they know that because there are degrees of separation from the sender, to their audience, that the people who hear about the narrative might think it's something better than it actually is. That's the point of going with a narrative instead of the truth. We're talking about broadcasting truth, which is really where we align our narrative with what is, not with what we want, what we need to take it. You know what I mean? And so I think we're going to be, some people are going to be surprised because they've been wanting to live their whole life hiding behind this narrative. And some of us are ready to stand up to these parasites and be like, okay, well, what's the truth though? Because nobody is forced to do anything. Drama and trauma doesn't just exist. We're not just victims. Like family situations aren't just bad. Somebody's doing something. What are they doing? Is that acceptable or not acceptable? Maybe there's reason for people's emotion. Maybe there's reasons for people's action. We're no longer flipping ourselves inside out because of this envious gluttony, because people who are parasitic who are not wanting to do that shadow work, right? Like we can't, there's no excuse anymore, because now, you know, when we look at it, it's like, we're not going to flip everything upside down just to make it work, just to ignore, just to continue to make everybody else keep some part of themselves locked away like you do. No, we're not creating this sort of monster. And so it says, the key is that we don't want to recognize the depth of the envy and anger. We casted it out of ourselves, and now it's truly a parasitic monster, impossible to accept as something that came out of ourselves. Right? What if we bring light to the pitch dark well? What if the scary monster is just a scrawny, starved feeling? What if some of y'all also are really about to get to know the universe? Because I feel like some of these parasites, here's the karma. They manifested it. That big reality that they were pretending, that they were hiding behind, that they were just, that narrative they were generating. Okay, they actually manifest, because life is just verbal spells, and the answer is yes, so they get it, right? Maybe these people are famous now. The funny karma is that being famous will be their worst nightmare. Being well known, getting that position will be their worst nightmare. Why? Because it's going to, either way, the universe is just trying to get you to confront this. There's no good or bad here. We're not judging you. You just can't leave this unascended. It's just, this can't stay there. So you're going to manifest the dream job or the attention or whatever. And you might think that the people who stood up to you and said, hey, I see your parasitic behavior for what it is, and I'm walking away from it. You thought you got away with it because, you know, you're like, well, look, I still have the public identity, I still have the fame, but the problem is then you actually have to work the job, right? This is the part of it where we talked about the trading the destination for the journey. You don't want to do that, right? Because the problem is once you get the destination, that's a moment in time, and that passes, and then you're back on the journey. So then you're just going to be left with your inability to actually do the job. So then you're going to lead to your own what? Destiny, then trading it for failure, your own failure, because you don't know how to sustain the destination. You don't have it from within. So you're going to get this, you're going to get this, you're going to get that, and then it would crash and burn, because inevitably you never had it to begin with, because you were so busy spinning a narrative that was divesting the collective consciousness from focusing on truth versus for worrying about the narrative people were saying. The truth is, so we can spend a lot less of our peripheral time letting our vision go all over the place. You know what I mean? We don't even have to do that. So, you know, this is such an important message here, because I feel like that really needed to be addressed. And that's kind of what's all coming into karmic balance here. So, and the goal is, what if this is just a little thing, right? Dark is tar indeed, but so that's what I mean. Like some of y'all some of the people that you feel like are also like pushing and trying to break through, like their success is actually like their worst nightmare. Like they actually, there's also this deep level of inauthenticity that says the thing that they're striving for is also their biggest fear. So either way, it doesn't matter because it's about how it feels. So someone could externally receive what you would define as success, but if it feels like shit to them, like that's what the real gauge would be. That would be the truth, right? Just like someone could have nothing really externally and be completely happy, and that is what's going to generate the future coins. That's the new currency. When we talked about the currency transferring a couple videos over, right? The currency has been transferred to the emotional wealth. So like right now, I don't have to be pressed that I don't have much, right? Because what I generated is a real value. Like I really feel extremely happy every single day. So now I'm going into this anniversary weekend with nothing physically, but I know I'm going to come out with this level of abundance because I now got the currency transferred to me because I actually possessed the value. The asset is now the happiness, right, that you can generate. So then people will now be achieving success. They're dimensionally up from the old world, but it won't mean anything. It won't even matter. It's also not even a relevant conversation, you know. It will almost feel as if like, oh wow, that's happening now. Too bad we don't care about any of that, you know. Too bad we've already been up and through that. It's like that. Like it's almost like, and then even when you arrive there, it's like late and ill-timed. You know, you can just tell spirit's nowhere near because the audience isn't. It's just, you know what I mean. So let's keep looking. Then we go to today for tomorrow, right? Hope is in the present. It's the brick we use to build the future on. I want some, I want it later, gently. It may seem like a trade-off to sacrifice the present in order to secure a better future. See, this is the difference. There are two different people. You chose a path that said, yes, I acknowledge we could always cash out right now. We could always get what we want right now. I could always manipulate, or if I don't have the internal lightness, or if I'm not big enough, if I'm not the best version of myself right now, I could always hide and just get the benefits of what that is, right? Wrong, right? Wrong. It's the acknowledgement that if I see somebody further along in their journey of self-love and I see reflected a capacity that I could have to fill, it says I can now take in this moment what I have is the opportunity to prepare for that future. So I can sacrifice feeling like I need to get it now and manipulate it now versus, so some of these parasites also banked on you making that decision, stepping back, acknowledging where it's like, why do I need to rush right now and get all the fame and accolade in the dying world? Why don't I wait till the new world is propped up and it can be substantial and I'll be more mature and I'll have lived through more cycles and I will have understood and learned at the hands of more people, you know? You can only be better for like waiting and growing through certain things, you know what I mean, in order to understand fully what your expression is. So I'm never in a rush to like hurry up and express just because of some fleeting time or window that seems like convenient for the most eyes or attention objectively. Like it doesn't, none of that would feel like anything. You know, fame and accolade won't feel like anything if you don't feel the love from those people or from those channels. And so there's a lot of loveless sharing, and what does it mean, like reputation? Well, now if you don't have any currency, which is energetic, it's not going to be visible, right? It's going to be of a higher dimension. We're ascending, so it's less visible currency. Like the value of someone is not going to even necessarily be how they're adorned. You're just going to know because of the energetic and the vibrational value that they hold. And so I feel like when you're looking now, like you addressed that the best way to get the quickest bridge to inner peace was to recognize that, you know, to get from envious gluttony to peace among thorns, I'm gonna have to start really understanding long-term versus short-term games and not cheat and really stand by peace from within. So that, because this is that point where it's like painful, where it's like I'm peaceful internally even though it isn't quite yet reflected externally, and that's where you end up, and that's what you, when you call in sort of this new enlightened energy. So that is beautiful. Yep. So on Envious Gluttony, it's too weird.
On Envious Gluttony, we got the Knight of Swords. You got the Ace of Swords here for today, for tomorrow. High Priestess in reverse. The Star. Yes. So exactly what I just said. So how do you tap into star energy? Who is the real star here? Who's the real star? Well, it's a great question. This is the conversation of narrative, Knight of Swords, what is written in the letter, what I can tell you, versus truth. This is the battle. This is what's being compared. And your intuition, High Priestess in reverse, is trying to tell you, something isn't right here. Because this, do not assume that this is necessarily what this is. This is an interpretation of this. And so your High Priestess is gauging this. So if you're around a narrative, if there's a narrative being presented in your High Priestess is like, it's not real. It's not real. And it might be you, the High Priestess in reverse is over the peaceful among thorns. She's like, like, it's like you have to be peaceful when you know this is not truth that's being presented to you, because that's happening. This, you want to see who this Knight of Swords, who's saying that they're giving you a narrative? This is what they really look like. Envious and gluttonous. They're envious and gluttonous. And so they're packaging it up because they want to fit the vibes of the truth. Because the truth has made an alliance. Their past self and their future self are bound together in truth. The truth is what connects your past to your future. So this energy is stuck in a cage, forgotten by itself, gonna continue to stay there rotting, and it's trying to run out and tell everybody, oh, it's good, like I'm loving your vibes. They have to dress it up. They need a rose. And this your truth really just is what it is, and it actually just connected you to your destiny. And I feel like your High Priestess is having right now, our High Priestesses are in reverse because we have not yet manifested the external world, right? But this is how the light turns in, and you can only be the star in the dark, right? The light turns on in the dark, right? So the star is presented in nighttime, so that's why it's okay that you are having to master being peaceful in the middle of chaos, and then boom, so within, so without. There comes the fated and destined, where everything that you've done internally will be reflected externally. But this is for now. The High Priestess is trying to tell you, this is skill. This is like you've been doing the work, so you can now discern this level of like, it takes lying to a whole new level, because it's not even like conscious lying. It's like masked energy. It's like possessed energy. It's like, be very careful about what you think is truth. Do not just assume that a narrative that you hear is what the truth is. There are some people who have to tell the truth of their life, how they can stomach it. Let's just say that. Not going to judge nobody, but the cards do not lie. And I just wanted to shout out God, because I have really come into a spread that I feel like really helps bring to life messages that I receive. So grateful. Orphaned. Four of Cups. Right? This is the story about how this little boy just follows this lion, and he's going to grow up and think he's a lion because he's actually orphaned. He doesn't even have parents, so he can't. There's limitations here. The Four of Cups here is like, all four of my cups are spilled. I don't have any better option. It's kind of a different narrative than God coming. It's yes, it is something unexpected, but it comes in at a foundational level. Like the Four of Cups is your emotional security is being rocked, and so you kind of need something like a support animal. This is like developing a support animal, but it's based out of trauma, so it can become kind of a codependent clutch, and this is affecting the narrative, because some of y'all are gaining royalty because you become mastered narrative spinners. But some of the people that are sitting at these thrones, some of the people that you're seeing getting accolades and whatever, they actually have a deep past that looks like this. Orphaned. So look, this is, and it's funny because, not even that this matters, but like that movie Blonde surrounding Marilyn Monroe's life story, and they always talk about how she like would just be like crying on stage, like that the end of the trailer, she's like in shambles, and she like looks up and she's like, whatever. That's this, right? There's a revelation right now, right? Like I said, with this is on top of this energy. Knight of Swords is actually envious and gluttonous of you. This Knight of Swords is actually envious and gluttonous of the truth. It could never be the truth. So some people are spinning these narratives that they know could never be the truth. So that's why they created them, because they're so fixated on how they could never make their story something else. They wish they were the King of Swords, but reality, he's just 4 cups. His past is emotional damaging. So of course these people go and they make these stories so that they can make it the truth, so that they could live the life that they want to live. Seven of Pentacles, the Death card, or I'm sorry, the Star card, Five of Swords. Yes. So the truth, right? Not to be rude, but look how the star energy, Seven of Pentacles, which is when people would run away, like, this is all the points you win from standing in your integrity, you know what I mean? Even at the low end, like, you take the highs and the lows of investing, the gambles and the risks, you take it all. And because you show up in your integrity, you've developed this relationship where you can stand. This is also hard-bodied. I'm almost hearing like people reflecting on me, like people are gonna look at you and just know you've earned it, is what I heard. And so in comes this sort of Five of Swords energy, right? Where it's like the pain. So look, this is the aligned heart. This is mind, body, and soul. This is when you cut your losses, and this is what we're doing. This is what God is giving me this message for, because for those of us who are in the truth vibration, we are now able to just cut the losses. Like the people who are spinning the narrative are getting cut because we are in our star energy. And it's something that can't be faked. It's just the proof is in the pudding. There's something that comes in to the star that proves that was a loss, like that the narrative that's being spun is just false truth. It's just hurt. It's right? The narrative that you're being presented, we're slaying it because it's actually getting killed by its own pain, and we're moving forward with one single sword, the second sword in the back, right? Like, it's Wheel of Fortune. This is what I mean. This is destiny. When destiny hits, it is something, it's luck meeting preparation. That's what this body is. That's what this star is. That's what this moment is. That's why you are both you've got the water and the air. You are that conduit. You are the conduit, and you facilitate the cowardice, the true cowardice. Like, this person counts themselves out. The real loser here would be the lion. The person, you can judge this person for going toe to toe with Miss Lion, but you never got it. You're also you're the king of the jungle, and you're just watching. So you can judge me for my downfalls or for the things that I had to fight for, because everybody sees all of my behavior. But you need to remember you're just a spectator. And that's what the star is saying. We're recognizing that some of the people who have created the biggest, deepest narratives were merely spectators. And when you hit your destiny, we're going to know exactly who was just watching from the stands, and it's like wasting your time. Exactly, bro. Five of Pentacles. This is us breaking out of year 5. Year 5 had us, we were being tested because this is what we were doing. We were in the chrysalis year 5. Year 6, we're coming out of the chrysalis. And in the chrysalis, your high priestess can't really, you know what I mean? It's like being permanently locked into, and you know you're in a chrysalis, you know you're in a place where you need to break out, because your high priestess cannot stay in reverse. She cannot stay in a place where she is being ignored. Check yourself, check your surrounding. Do they go against what your intuition is telling you about yourself? Are the people that you keep closest to you telling you things that are direct opposition to what your intuition is telling you? Yeah, then just know it's a place you're about to leave real motherfucking sin. You're about to bust out of that poverty consciousness, because it was only meant to, you were only going to be there until you found inner peace, and then now you reflect the world outside of you. don't even need anything. He's just sitting on his throne. He doesn't need anything. He just has his cup. You're packing light, King of Cups. I mean, it's beautiful. You are in the center of your world with dissolved without boundaries, proud in your emotional space, in your well-being. Your cup is full because you will be your own lighthouse. This is gorgeous. But the message just continues, I suppose. This is gorgeous. Dennis is having a good day. It's about to get weird.
So for this, remember, for this parasite energy, for this envious and gluttonous Knight of Sword, for this for the people out there that are creating a narrative, businesses, corporations, people, family members, friends, exes, childhood teachers, you name it, anything external of you that was creating some narrative but actually had this energy, Spirit's message. Words do not teach, my life experience teaches. These people are going to be up on the podium. They're going to sound like puppets, right? Because their life experience was this: orphaned, abandoned, unable to produce for themselves. This little baby's parents are dead, and that's why it's just sitting there. Doesn't even know what the fuck to do, emotionally abandoned and wounded. And it says, words do not teach, which is the lesson. This is what Spirit is giving these people. Words do not teach. You can talk about how amazing your relationship is. If you go home and get hit every night, I'm not even trying to trigger nobody, right? You could talk about how, oh my God, this. And when you are seeing something different, when your high priestess is like, that's not what's happening. That is a narrative. That is not the truth. That is a form of the truth they have to tell themselves in order to be able to stomach it. Like if they're having to package that way, that's what they want it to be. And that's all great intentions, but again, versus the impact of what's actually going to happen. It is life experience that brings you your knowing, right? Which is why some of these people are also manifesting really intense life experience, which is the reason why they're doing this, is because they're trying to call in a life experience that will tell them that they have to heal this abandonment wound. They have to understand and come to learn why they've incarnated with this experience at such a young age, so that they're not always thinking that they don't have any inner light, that they don't have to keep neglecting this part of themselves like they felt when they were youngin', when they were youths, when all that light energy was supposed to be invested. Some of this is not their fault, you know. Some of it is like they really just had the karma, and there's no real need to say not their fault though, because your karma is your karma. Because even if you were a child in this life who like lost your parents, it's probably because in a past life there's like, you see what I mean. So it's not even to really say like their fault like that, you know what I mean. It's just, it is what it is. We got to start looking. We got to come up above the duality, right? But, you know, some of these people are sitting here in this envious gluttony, and they're not realizing that you can try to spin a narrative, but your words are not what's going to teach us about you, right? Your experience. And some of y'all don't have the experience. Some of y'all can't generate the experience. I'm also saying that for some of y'all who do have the experience, who are embodied, who are really just the truth, the reason that people can differentiate between you and the narrative makers is the narrative makers, they're not doing anything. You made people go back and be like, oh my God, I thought that was the truth. I was about to make that choice. I was going to make that decision. And then thank God you came around and actually embodied the truth, because without your truth, look at what we would have committed to. This mess of an energy. Unhealed. Falsifying, no real work being done here, no real healing being done here, just generational trauma. It's not okay. We can tell ourselves a narrative, but what's the point? It doesn't help this person, it doesn't help this energy, it doesn't help them at all. And I actually want to help people, so I'm not gonna do you any services if I can just tell, like, yeah, well, actually,
we can't make a narrative trying to say that this isn't what it is, envious gluttony, because they were like that when they were kids, is also what I'm hearing. It's something that, no, this is the truth because it's been a pattern their whole life. There's a truth that comes out that is just about what they've been doing their whole life. Reflect into your own past life experience and begin watching for the correlation between the words you are reading here and the life experience that you have lived. Do you see what I just did there? Going back and saying, well, technically that energy was like that their whole life. You have to look at who people were before they started telling you the narrative. What were they really like? What was their real energy? Some people also have been gotten really lost in like karmic energy, so they also have really not been able to connect with who they really are because they've been so lost in the narrative they've been telling themselves. Like some of y'all have loved ones who, got in certain relationships and they look unrecognizable, and it's like, dang, how can I help them connect to who they were before they started telling themselves all this stuff for love? And it just really made them really unrecognizable and ultimately neglect the best parts of themselves. Like, how do I help with that, right? Have you been mostly thinking, speaking, writing, and observing that which pleases you or not? And that's a simple way to ask right now, because God is asking you to show up. God is saying, well, have you really, and this is 10:46 completion. So the end of the cycle for that energy, like I said, time's up for the parasite. But
Of course, and of course, for the truth energy, right? The truth that connects us from the destiny energy. The truth that is on path to the destiny. Guess what we got? I know who I really am. One new beginning for those of us who are in the alignment of truth. You are an extension of non-physical energy. You are indeed an extension of that which we are. We are known as teacher and we are known as Abraham, and we are together because of our matching intentions and desires. Yeah, so you're going to start seeing, who you are immediately, like rapid fire. You're going to meet and come into connection with something that is a reflection of that new you, of that knowing of self, and then boom, like rapid fire, you're going to see why you're connected to them, because you all are united through that Abraham, through that consciousness of truth. Which is a completely different energy, right? Because the parasite, like I said, it'll be going 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. So they're going backwards from that 10 heavy, 10 of swords, 10 of wands, 10 of cups, right? They may have the 10 of cups, they may have the 10 of pentacles, they may have the 10 of wands, they may have the 10 of swords, right? But now they're going to have to go back and go all the way back to where you're just now starting. Do you see how much further ahead the path of truth really gets you in the long run? And then the final is 60. This is year 6. I told you, we're coming out of year 5. We're going into year 6, 60. And in year 6, it says, I understand the rules of the game of life. Duh, there goes the balance, right? In year 6, we're finally going to be living from a place of knowing the rules. We're not learning the rules anymore, right? Year 5 was the last part where you're like learning the rules, being like, okay, now I think I can play Monopoly. Now that I know all the things you're supposed to do in the game, how different do you play a game once you know the rules? You know what I mean? When you're not always getting like penalty kicks and fouls and this and that, running the wrong side of the court, kicking the goal in the wrong, right? When you actually know the rules of something, how much better do you perform? So this is the year where, even in my relationship, tomorrow's my anniversary, and I'm so excited because this upcoming year for us, it was like New Year's Eve, like I said, and this new year we're going to see how much better our relationship performs, so we're not in debt learning the rules of our relationship. Now we're actually ready to see what it looks like. So this is a whole new energy. Now that I understand the rules of this game of eternal life, now that I understand that the powerful law of attraction and deliberate creation, I can prepave segment by segment my life experience into becoming the allower I was born to be, where I was destined to a life of fulfillment and never-ending joy. We're going to be hugging trees. You see what I mean? Now that you know, now that you're coming out of year 5, now that you're coming out of the hardest test, learning the responsibility, learning the rules, learning the game, I mean, it's really all so positive. I think we're gonna end on the Angel Tarot. Let's see what the final message is here. But yeah, now that you know the game, look at year 6. It's just this new exciting space where we're also going to see, are you at a 10 or are you at a 1? Are you at the beginning of the cycle or are you at the end of the cycle? Having to now, because you should be starting the planet, the ecosystem is at the beginning. So if you're at the 10, we're also going to see, it's just going to speak for itself. That's part of the truth here. We're going to be looking at people who cashed out. We're going to be looking at the people who, the gluttony, the envy got them to cash out, make all types of deals with whoever to create whatever narrative they need to create to get what they wanted right now. Well, that's stupid because it was a dying world. So why didn't you just wait? If it was really a part of your destiny. Oh wait, because it's not. Then this is why it's real shadow energy, because this is stuff that's not on people's path, that they were trying to put on their path. And so this is really, really important for us to stand in the integrity. Right, the Eight of Fire in reverse. Events moving at a fast pace, delays are over, many things happening at once. Right? The Eight of Fire in reverse means assembling a team. So the Eight of Fire is like group manifestation. So these are people who are assembling these. This is a deep message. These were people who were assembling these groups because they wanted to, this is expediting, this is going against the cycles, this is coming out of the ecosystem to make things happen, burning ahead. This is like fossil fuel, this is like that vibration of humanity where we're like burning things, burning the hot oil. I'm hearing the oil hot, burning the oil hot is what I'm hearing. Yeah, these people were burning the oil hot, burning the midnight hour. Like, there's a reason why you can't just burn, like, don't just be burning your last oil lamp in the middle of the summer, like during the daytime, because you're really going to need that at night. Like, that's what I'm hearing. Like, these people were burning all their oil during the daytime because everybody could see them burning it, and they're like, ooh, but then they didn't realize, like, you needed those lamps because now they can't see anything at night and they have no warmth in the winter. Does that make sense? There were some of you who knew, like, oh, I'm not supposed to use these resources right now because when the winter comes, when you actually are going to need them, you're not going to have any. And that's what I feel like is happening. These people are realizing the Five of Water. Things not turning out the way you'd hoped, not seeing the positive in a situation, crying over spilled milk. It's another energy on I know who I really am. That's all these people could also, yes. And so with these energies, you also might have come out of union with these parasites, right? But it was only to receive the actual fulfillment. You walked away, you realized, like, oh, that narrative is not, that's the energy that the truth is going to be looking at the Eight of Fire as like not sustainable. That is not it. That is not the truth. That is not the way forward. That is not the model for how we should be living life. That is not some of the trends, some of the things that people are into. Like, it's not the way forward because it's not promoting it's promoting the over connection of not actually source based. It's narrative. We're creating a narrative, not actually just like embodying what the truth is. So that's really what Spirit is saying. It's a big fast step, but let's see what this final message is. It's a beautiful message. You guys are so okay. This all came at me. I'm so happy for this message. It's such a good one. Such a good one. So I'm so excited. Thank you, Spirit, for the final message. It's such a good message. Too much work, accept help from others, life is out of balance, stress-related health concerns, right? And this is what it means. Going into the Ten of Fire, which is really your biggest thing. So you're going from the Eight of Fire. Do you see what I mean? You're going to be able to see how many people, like, what you get is the awareness of what is too much work from you, and you can learn how to accept help from others and and figure out when life is out of balance, and how that path only leads to, like, Spirit is literally telling you what that path led to. The observance of the Eight of burning the oil hot, burning everything up, means that you're going to get to a point of burnout, right? Which is too much work. You're going to need help from others. Life is all out of balance, stress-related health concerns. That's what these people's reality are. That's what these institutions, these groups, like I said, it could be anything that's resonating. I feel like we know, though, anything that was creating a narrative is now at this place where it's too much. Everything they manifested is going to be too much. They're going to have so much help from other people. Everything's going to be out of balance. They're going to have all these health-related concerns. Like, what's the point of having the 10 if you can't even enjoy it, right? And so what you might be receiving for those of us at the beginning, though, is a new person enters your life, a relationship begins a new phase, heightened psychic abilities. And because you've gone through this experience, because we now know collectively the difference between narrative and truth, we now understand how we can go forward with heightened psychic abilities. You know what I mean? You do have an understanding of what you knew all along, what was confirmed all along. So everybody's psychic part, the part of ourselves that's psychic, is affirmed, because in the end, the truth always stands. So whatever your intuition was telling you, wow. As I did that, the King of Earth. It says, time to buckle down and get things done. Honor your commitment to guardian angel. Loyal, dedicated, and honorable and kind. Like, that's what it is. Once the truth is affirmed, it's time for you to get to work, because you know who you are and you knew who you always were. And I think, yeah, when we look at the past, when we look at people who try to tell you to make it happen, the people who orchestrated that Eight of Wands, who just assembled the group with the low consciousness, assembled a dying group, assembled, like,
wands against will, like is what I'm hearing. People assembling their wands against their will. And all they end up with is too much work because you are the person who is the thread between all of it. Be very careful for those external worlds where people are the center of the entire ecosystem. Like if there's if you can trace all this back to one thing that isn't source, be prepared to watch that kind of come to a conclusion at this time. And that's just really what it is. I feel like I want to end on... So, this is exciting. Anyways, happy anniversary to me. I'm so excited for my weekend. Because this is where the weirdos get to come out. Because everybody's going to be indoors. So I'm going to be super excited. But, yes, thank you, Spirit. Let's just get my time to affirm the energy. Did someone say stair climber? In reverse, the stair climber. I feel like I almost heard, I wanted to hear social climber, someone who's just trying to climb up the ladder, is what I'm hearing from that energy immediately. I told you about this snake, I told you about this parasite energy. So let's talk about it, because so the attribute. The stair climber places a ladder against the night sky and begins his ascent to the heavens. His intention is to reach beyond the moral limits of gravity and explore the infinite possibilities of human consciousness. As he ascends, he looks down on everything below and is rewarded with an understanding of his persona. He is climbing towards a particular star, a beacon in the heavens that is forever moving yet always fixed. The further the stair climber travels, the more alone he becomes. But for him, isolation is a small price to pay for the reward. Once aloft, the sense of replenishment and restoration are too profound to ignore. He has exchanged the mundane for a journey into the mystic, and he is content with his choice. Wow. Does that not sound like us to him? To others, seen from the ground, it may appear that he is engaged in some metaphysical game of snakes and ladders, or is wallowing in New Age crystal gazing. But the stair climber's ascent is far from indulgent. His ambitions are far higher. He is seeking a form of spiritual astronomy, a means of looking into the heart of the cosmos in order to construct a list of questions that, if answered, would reveal the nature of his being. So I feel like for this card to come out in the reverse, I think we're getting the true nature of this. How are you seeing this? Are you a social climber that's actually going straight down to your demise, or are you climbing into the heavens and reaching new heights? What is your perspective at this time? Because both people, the narrative will tell you it's the same ladder, right? They're trying to climb up. They're going to tell you they're hiding behind their ability to seek higher, but is it indulgent? Which is it for you? And that is what you're getting weighed on. That's what Anubis is weighing the heart of. That just is. Like, it doesn't matter if I tell you, like, you got a social climber in your hand, or you've got someone who's actually really committed to this journey of self-understanding and self-awareness. But all in all, what a beautiful message, and I'm so grateful, and I'm so happy this message came out because I've wanted it for a long time. So peace be with you all, and congratulations to me. I'm going to take a break this week, and maybe not, might share the joy, but it is my anniversary, so just glory be in advance.